So welcome to what I am calling the Tigra Starter Pack video. And as you can see online, that's how I'm sorting them. Also, I show multiple versions and ways of countering a specific special attack. And it's ordered by what I think you should prioritize. So there's Hulkling, for example, and this special one. You see, I think that the 3 dashbacks is probably more effective than the 2 lights. And I am categorizing that based on difficulty. I'm categorizing it based on, I guess also if I'd prefer a dashback to a block or a phase to a dashback and so on. So yeah, Hulkling is pretty easy. Man-Thing's pretty easy. I also, if you read the intro, I am doing it roughly based on what I think it is important to know. And so I think it is important to know Hulkling first, then Man-Thing, then Ebony Maw, and so on. Roughly. This is all my opinion. And these are all fairly standard. Man-Thing and Ebony Maw either require finesse or they require a little bit of AI cooperation, and ideally both. Thing just requires the ability to adapt because his special one, depending on where he throws it, does have a little bit of a varied spacing, and so you can see me using the 3 dashbacks here, the 4 dashbacks and a light. These both work no matter what. But, I mean, the 4 dashbacks and a light, for example, you could do 4 dashbacks and see, oh, I don't need a light. And so some of these do kind of change a little bit. You want to make sure for Sersi that she is neutralized, of course. This one's also a pretty standard matchup. I'm looking at this from the perspective of war and battlegrounds primarily. Dr. Doom, this one only really matters in battlegrounds. In war, you're never really going to do that. Make sure he's not an aura or you'll get hit in the face. But in battlegrounds, it's a really important matchup to know. Do the double dashback, and you want your dashback to be as early as possible, your second dashback. You can also block in heavy and then quick fire. Your last hit will land. And you can do a reaction. So yeah, I suggest the first one though. This is also a really good matchup to know, specifically for battlegrounds. You won't really be using it for anything else. And you also don't ever really want to be baiting the special one. So I'm showing how to counter some of these specials that realistically you're never going to do. You're never going to bait out that special. For example, for Galan, you're never baiting out the special too, but I'm still going to show you how to do it. And also check out this fun little thing that you can do with Galan. You can do a heavy for spacing. There are maybe 4 champions who can do heavy with spacing. Heavy for spacing rather. Yeah, so you don't want to bait out that L2. I'm still showing you how, but you don't want to. Here's Nimrod. You probably don't even want to be baiting out the L2 from Nimrod either, actually, because he has to be neutralized. Otherwise, depending on the mode, he could go unstoppable. And even more importantly, mid-special, he could go unstoppable when there's no neutralize. Weapon X, you notice I did a sidestep there for a couple champions who are aggressive, namely Weapon X, Terrax, and Sasquatch when they're in their modes, and a couple others. Yeah. And no, actually, look at this one. This one's really, really cool. So here we go. And look at that. FinTech absolutely figured this out yesterday. One of the hardest things I've ever done with Tigra, and a really fun one. And so you'll also notice that some of these say quick on them, and quick merely means you have to quick fire it, so I go as quick as possible. And, I mean, I think it's pretty self-explanatory. Slow means slow. Wall means that they have to be against their wall. Middle means it's in the middle of the field only. all these notations are pretty self-explanatory. And yeah, these are just different ways you can go about doing stuff. They're all different. This one, mid-combo, essentially means that he has to hit your block once before doing that. See, I put a little please don't here because you could, but you'll get incinerated. You always want to bait Bishop's L2, always. But yeah, so pretty standard stuff here, just different spacings. And yeah, this is the classic one from APOC. You just want to do 3 and 3, but not often do people bait out the L2. See, I'm doing the fancy way, which is like these are set spacing, so no matter where you are, that spacing will work. No matter where you are, the spacing will work. Unless you're against the wall, something that's a little bit different. You're against your wall. But you can also just dex it, and then find out what happens and kind of figure out where you are. Yeah, this also works if you don't want to dex it, you want to block it. Yeah. So a lot of these things, there are what I like to call automated ways of doing it, which is to say that once you see the special attack and you have your Q, you go and you repeat. So look at this. I do a dash back, I do 2 lights, and I do another dash back and a heavy. Those 2 lights aren't necessary at all. They don't help with spacing. The only thing they do is they set my timing so that my dash back is on time. Those aren't necessary, but it's what I call automated. And so you don't have to do automated spacing. You can. For beginners, I recommend always doing automated spacing because then it takes out the judgment calls, and doing judgment calls when a special is being thrown and you're heavying is kind of a rough idea. And so it's nice to have stuff that's automated. And so I do suggest doing some of those, but they're a little bit unnecessary. They are kind of fun to show off though. So they're fun to do and kind of mess around with just for fun as well. Here you go. Notice I throw a light in first, which helps me get better spacing. 2 lights, and watch, I have to do quick because I just have to quick fire that so that she doesn't move out of the way. A lot of the projectile ones are quick, and a lot of the ones where they're jumping back and forth are quick. But yeah, and also the special one, that's automated. You can also just space it out. I prefer this way, just getting close to him and making sure that you either dex or sidestep that last hit, and you can do it. Right? So here we go, just waiting for it and going. But if you also want to, as I say, automate it, you can do this. You can dash back 4 times, just kind of like slide on the wall for a bit. Then you can do a medium and you can do that. But yeah. And also some of these are heavy interruptions. You notice how the first one's a heavy interruption and the other is not. Some heavy interruptions are better than others, and there are times for them. And so if your neutralize is about to run out and your senses are low, go for the interruption. If you're against the wall, you don't want a heavy dex against the wall, go for the interruption, right? There are times to go for the interruption and times not to, because the heavy interruption or the heavy intercept is generally slightly riskier, but there are definitely payoffs to it. So I'm not here to tell you to do it, to not do it, whenever. I'm just saying that it's good to know, because there are times in which it is very beneficial to know it. And so look again, in the middle, that's going to work. If you're in the corner, you're going to get hit in the face by doing that. So you have to do a double dex instead of a single dex and a light. Very different. This is automated as well. You can just manually space it out. It's not hard, but 6 dashbacks will do it. Here, and also notice this. Spamming a dashback, all dashbacks are not created equal, and everyone knows this. You notice how that little pause saves me, well, I guess there was a block too, but you'll also notice that there are times when I can do 3 separate dashbacks, and that's equivalent to something like 4 spammed dashbacks or something like that. And so spamming a dashback, it's easier. You just have to count in your head. Everybody can count. Just count to 4 and you're done. Whereas for some people, you have to kind of time a little bit. So I try to give both options when there is one. And there are also going to be things that I miss. So if I miss any spacings, please let me know. But yeah. Here we go. You actually cannot interrupt that one. If you try, you'll probably get hit in the face. This is actually not suggested that you do if they have standard ground, so maybe don't do that in war. You probably just want to block in war. But hey. Yeah, so just moving on. We're getting near the end. I hope this has been kind of helpful in my thought process and kind of how I go about doing these things and which ones I prioritize. That light, once again, it helps with timing. So the light allows you to dash in and follow him backwards, and that's what the light's for. It's not necessary. It doesn't give anything but timing. So yeah. And then we have Domino here, which is pretty. This one's a little bit risky because she can just fail a whole bunch of your shit or evade, which is just not good looks at all. And here's one of the hard ones. Right here, you can do the dash back. You can do 2 lights here, then another dash back and heavy. My personal favorite is the medium, but the medium requires a different timing. So I'm going to show you here side-by-side screens, and you'll notice that I dash in at different times. Those videos are synced up. I dash in at different times. And yeah, it's just because it's based on where I am on the map, and our double medium makes it a little bit harder. But yeah, here we have Guardian. You always want to bait out that special 1. There are almost no champions in which you would ever choose to bait out that special 2. If you can heavy counter the special 1 and they don't have obscene power gain, you're going to want to heavy counter that special 1 9 times out of 10, if not more. It's just that simple. Here we have Kitty Pryde. You always want to block because it removes her prowess. And so while technically, see look, that's why I put it second. You can technically do it without taking a blocked hit, but it's kind of mindless to do that. However, for the special 2, because it does so much damage, I probably would prefer not doing that. Remember, if she's in phase, don't go for this, or you will get slaughtered. Don't go for it if she's in phase. This one actually can sometimes clip you depending on where you are. The special 1 can, the heavy can, sorry, for Sauron. And also, I'm showing you stuff midfield if you are allowed to use it, meaning if it will connect midfield, but it does better on the wall. So when people are on the wall, you can usually do less lights, you can usually hit more hits, and all that fun stuff. But yeah, this is my favorite for the Void one. There are like 3 different ways to do it, but that is my favorite, is dashing back and heavying, because it's the easiest. Nick Fury, you really only want to bait out heavies and throw special 2s, and then like Dex is specials, but here's how you counter them. You're just not often going to be doing it, especially that special 1. It's very rare that you counter the special 1, but that's the special 2 as well. So there are multiple ways to do this. You're not really going to be countering your specials, as I said. Silver Surfer is one of the most fun ones, but people don't generally place him on defense. But yeah, he's a really, really fun one for me, and I really like this one. There you go, little block, and heavy on reaction. And also, you don't often see this last defender, CGR on defense, but if you do, Tigra is a good option for it. But yeah, that is the video, and that are, I believe it's 34 or 35 different defenders that I believe are the best to know using Tigra.